Hello, Jodi here from Joli Natural Skincare, and today I wanted to talk to you about tinctures. Tincture is a medicine, an old-fashioned medicine, herbal remedy to cure what ails you, or just help relieve symptoms and things like that. So what we have here is 150 grams of fresh catmint. Catmint itself is good for relieving blocked noses and things like that. So it's kind of good with cold symptoms, but also my son, for example, has a dust allergy and he's had a blocked nose his entire life. So catmint tincture should help with that. It should help relieve some symptoms, get rid of that congestion inside his nose. So the difference between, say, a tincture and a herbal remedy is a herbal remedy or a herbal infusion is more like a tea. So you get 75 grams of fresh herbs to 500 grams of boiling water. Put the herbs in a teapot, pour the water over, let it sit for 10 minutes, and then you can drink that tea and then get those herbal extracts and remedies in your system to help with whatever ailment that you have. If you want to turn that herbal infusion into a syrup, you'd end up with that 75 grams of herbs, 500 ml water solution, and then add 500 grams of honey and then let that seep or sit. However, today I'm making a tincture, which is a little bit different. It's kind of like a very strong herbal infusion, and it uses alcohol to preserve. So we start with 150 grams of fresh herbs. Now, it is a whack ton of herbs. You can see that from looking at it here. And tinctures can be made using different things. It depends on what you're needing. So for example, chamomile, peppermint. I mean, there's so many different herbs and so many uses for them. If you have any questions, let me know. So I've got to somehow try to fit that all in here. And you have to be careful you have to be careful as well with what types of herbs you're using and knowing the properties of them. And different herbs and things will use different parts. This recipe calls for the aerial parts, which is the parts that grow above the ground, the leaves and the stems. But certain things might also require just the roots, for example, if you're working with ginger and things like that. Again, any questions, let me know. To that we add 3/4 cup of water, and a 1/4 cup of vodka. So when making a tincture, it's 3 parts water to 1 part alcohol. Alright, so you can see in there the liquid only comes to about there. And so we leave this to sit for 2 weeks. I leave it in a cool place for 2 weeks, and I shake every so often as I want to get that liquid up the top and back down again. And eventually it should just shrink down, and in the end, 2 weeks, we'll have our tincture. And I'm going to play around with my tincture as well, because I feel like this is going to taste quite bitter. I'm going to add a little bit of honey once the tincture is ready. Now you could also use rum, possibly brandy as well. What you want to go for or go with is an alcohol that doesn't have a whole lot of additives to it. Although you could use things like rum and brandy that might taste a little bit better than vodka, for example. Gin is also possibly another one. I'm not sure whether gin has a whole lot of additives or not. So I leave this to sit for 2 weeks, and then the dose is 5 ml 3 times a day, and you just take it like a medicine, and it should, depending on whatever the herb is, help with that particular ailment. So we'll leave this to sit for 2 weeks, and we'll come back to it and we'll see how it's going. And while I've got you here, I wanted to talk about another medicine that I've made. And this one here is garlic honey medicine. So what you do is you get chunks of garlic, put them in a jar, cover it with honey, and then let it sit forever. Really, it'll last forever. So I made this in 2019 and it's still fine. No dramas. So what you do is, if you've got a cold, sore throat, cough, things like that, you can take a teaspoon of this, swallow it down, just soothe that sort of dry, irritated, sort of nasally cough feeling. And that's what this is pretty good for. Funny story though, I said to my son, did he want to try it? And he said, Mum, I'm not tasting your witchy brews. I was like, oh, he knows me too well. So anyway, that's one form of medicine that you can make, as well as the tinctures and infusions or the syrup. And I'll leave some details and instructions below so that you can have a read through and see how you go. Anyway, I'll try to film this after it's done, but in the meantime, thank you very much for taking the time to watch my video.